My name is Brigadier General Felix Kulayigye, Member of Parliament representing the UPDF. I'm also Director of Mobilization and Mindset Change at Operation Wealth Creation. It's indeed a pleasure to be with you as we are about to celebrate 35 years of NRM leadership to this country since we took power in 1986, January the 26th. Viewers, it's indeed worth the celebration. The journey has been long, a bit arduous, but thanks to the resilience of Ugandans, thanks to correct leadership, thanks to clear policies, it's a journey that we can look back and say, we have made it, but we are still going. 35 years ago, just outside UBC where I am, dead bodies were littered in the road. As you move from down, which was a swamp at the time, now you have Oasis Mall, you have Golf Course Hotel, name it. You would not climb up here because soldiers were in charge of this station. That is normal. As I was coming in, other than the police at the gate who are keeping security over the station, there is no other security apparatus are visible or even available here. But we are celebrating a journey that has seen us advance politically, economically, and socially. As I mentioned, politically we started with resistance councils. Then we elected up to district level, where we had a chairperson, RC 5, Resistance Council 5. And this had become model from the village. So in 1989, we had the expansion of NRC. The political organ of NRA was NRM, National Resistance Movement. And then the political leadership had National Resistance Council, which was the parliament then. So in 1989 it was expanded, and we had the people elected through electoral colleges. That's how people like Imat Cecilio Gwal came to parliament for the first time, by the way. Despite having been a deputy secretary general of UPC, she only came to parliament for the first time under NRM. People like Honorable Daniel Omara Atubu, they came to parliament for the first time in 89, thanks to NRM. Then we had a broad-based government formed in 86 to accommodate the various interests. And this was to help heal the country, number one. Number two, indeed utilize the talents available in the country. The NRC indeed legislated for a constitutional process. Remember, in the 10-point program, there was a restoration of correcting past mistakes. And one of the mistakes was abrogation of the 1962 Constitution, which, by the way, was abrogated by one individual, Dr. Milton Obote. And he introduced a Republican Constitution in 1967 when Parliament was surrounded by armored personnel carriers. And that Constitution ruled this country until 1995. So a constitutional commission was established under Justice Benjamin Odoki, fortunately still alive, the former Chief Justice. The commission went around the country, collecting views from the citizens, how they wanted to be governed. They drew a report, which is in the Parliament Library today, and from the report, a Constituent Assembly was elected. People were sent as delegates to come and debate these views and get out a constitution. So for the first time, we had the people debating their constitution. Because 62 was done in Lancaster in the UK. 67 introduced by one man under armored personnel carriers. So this time round, the citizens, thanks to the NRM government, had the opportunity to determine how they wanted to be governed. So they chose to elect a CA. Interest groups were created as well, workers, youth, disabled, and the army. And so we had delegates conference, Constituent Assembly elected, and people debated these views. It was chaired by the late Honorable James Wapakablo, and his deputy was Professor Mwaka. The Constitution was promulgated on the 8th of October 1995. So we had now our own Constitution. So the following year, 96, we hold the elections. And this time, again for the first time, Ugandans have a chance to elect a president directly. Because in the 62 Constitution, we had what we call the Westminster mode of democracy. You elect members of parliament, the party with the majority forms government. This time, members of parliament would be elected in their own right, and then the president would have his own contract with the population. So we elected the president in 96, and we elected also members of parliament. Important to note that the UPDF, then NRA, was changed to UPDF by the citizens in the CA. So that's how we became the Uganda People's Defense Forces. But where did it come from? We had been asked to give our views also. But in a statement given by the then Army Commander on our behalf, General Mugisha Muntu, he stated, the UPDF, the Army shall abide by the decision of the people of Uganda. We have lived by that promise up to date, and we intend to stay on course. So, since 96, every 5 years, we have a president elected, we have members elected, without fail. And indeed, unlike many places, the women participation in these elections has been growing by leaps and bounds. The participation of the youth has been growing by leaps and bounds. And indeed, no wonder what we have just seen. The youth almost formed a wave, actually determined the politics in the recent elections. That is courtesy to NRM. Go back to economically, because politically, I believe we have reached where a situation is irreversible. Every 5 years, elections. Now, there has been debate about why the military representation in parliament. But since I'm a general, I better explain this. From 1963, all over Africa, the military has been changing governments. The first coup took place in Togo in 1963. Viewers may need to know that Togo had only 250 soldiers as a national army, but they overthrew the government. Thereafter, it was Nigeria, and others, and others. And so, President Museveni made a promise on 29th of January when he took oath, 1986, and said, what has happened is not a mere change of guard, it's a fundamental change.
What has been happening in the last few days is a mere change of guards. This is not a mere change of guards. I think this is a fundamental change in the politics of our country.
Fundamental because democracy has grown, deep roots. Fundamental change because the question of the military being a threat to democracy is no longer applicable. But again, when people get the leaders they deserve, it's because of the quality of the military. That's another area that the journey we have worked very well. That the NRA, now UPDF, has grown with the people of Uganda, both professionally, effectively, and in every field. We are living according to the requirements of the Constitution of Uganda. A people's army, first of all, productive army, because now we have various areas of economic field we are involved in, through NEC and National Enterprises Corporation. An army that cooperates with the civil authorities in emergency situations. You saw us in Ududa, the first one, and then the recent one. You saw us when the locusts invaded the country, how effectively we dealt with it. You saw us how we dealt with the floating islands. So, thanks to the support of the population, thanks to the effective budgeting by government, we have grown also in terms of capabilities. We have also grown from a mere national defense force to a peace exporter. That as a country now, we are able to support other African countries to regain statehood, to regain nationhood, to establish peace, thanks again to correct leadership and correct policies. Economically, I will never forget when the late Abubakar Mayanja was Minister of Information and was addressing people in Kamuli in 86. And he told him, government again kuleta sukari, government again kuleta umunyu, government again kuleta nkumbu, kali mukube mu ngalo. And because those were issues. Today, can you tell somewhere government is going to bring sugar? From where? Sugar is available everywhere. In fact, viewers need to know that our neighbors in Kenya had built a factory in Bungoma, a sugar factory, for the Ugandan market. It closed. Beer, we were drinking Kenyan beer. Now those who drink beer, me I don't, have beer in plenty from Ginger and the Portobello here. What about leave alone essential commodities? Now we have moved from manufacturing essential commodities. We have almost 3,000 factories manufacturing hardware, manufacturing tiles, name it. Self-sustaining economy indeed. Food. I am surprised we no longer have days of pictures of people from northeastern Uganda starving. We have food security. Thanks again to correct policies. So it's a celebration. We are celebrating advancement in the economy. From depending on donor aid, which was I think 58%, now we are financing our budget at 72%. The population growth. Why this explosion? When I was growing up, you could not mention Olunku Sense, measles, because they would think the children around will contract it. So we are calling it Omulangira. That's the respect we are giving measles, because it was decimating children. Now, all the 6 killer diseases were the first to be addressed. Measles, whooping cough, name them. Polio. They are no more. I was personally a victim of polio. Thanks to the vigilance of my father, I survived it. But others became lame. You could not go to a school and don't see a lame child. Never. Today, our children are growing up properly. Except for a few because of other incidents, but not polio. So, because of correct health policies, addressing the HIV/AIDS, 86, HIV was not known. Later in the year, the president discovers that indeed there was a problem called HIV and it was killing our people. He launched a war. So the death rate came down from 30% to 6% of HIV infections, thanks to correct policy of facing HIV, whereas people are saying, no, don't talk about it, it will scare away tourists and investors. And the president asked, are they coming to invest in our girls? Why should it be an issue? So, again, courageous leadership, dealt with HIV, dealt with the 6 killer diseases. So as a result, Uganda's population, which was growing at 3 million every 10 years, because 59 it was 6 million, 69 9 million, 80 11 million, 91 I think we were 14. That's when we began again. Thanks to the 5 years of NRM, we now grew by 3, I think 4 or 5, because we became 14 million. Then 2001 population census, we are now exploded to 24 million. 10 million increment. Today we are talking about 42 million. So that's because people are no longer dying of the 6 killer diseases. But two, life expectancy has gone up from 42 years to 67 years. That's a fundamental change indeed. So economically, we have dealt with the economy to address inflation, which was over 400%. They were saying they were calling it runaway inflation. Now it's a single-digit inflation. Now we are talking of unemployment because of the population explosion. So for us, we are not calling it the youth problem. It's a youth dividend that should be exploited with the proper investment policies to create jobs for these young people. So the economy grows from retarding, from minus growth to being the fastest growing economy in the world. For quite some time, Uganda's economy was growing at 7%. Now that's unprecedented. Today, as we speak, we are number 2 fastest growing economy on the continent. We are number 5 fastest growing economy in the world today. Now, that amazes me when I was hearing people saying Uganda is bad off. I don't know in what sense or what they were following. Socially, I talked about medication. This government, along the years, has built health centers at every sub-county. A health center for. Where it's not health center for, it's health center 3. So whereas previously we were talking about the 20 hospitals built in 64, Chiboga, Nakasongola, Chiliandongo, Nakaseke, what's the other one? I'm forgetting the one in Acholi, and then Bujiri, and the one in Tungam. We now have health facilities nearer the population. There is health center 4, health center 3, health center 2. Even drugs that were never known, now we are talking of drugs being stolen. Previously there was nothing to steal. Today drugs are there, but being stolen by people who would have been using them to treat our people. The onus is upon the local leadership to ensure that the services built nearer them indeed serve the population. Education. At the time I was at university, we had only one university, and the total population was 4,000. Makerere University. Today, there are over 30 universities. We have 50,000 people graduating every year. That's hence the unemployment problem. But the other aspect that we have had to deal with was the question of the type of education we are giving our people. This was neo-colonial education, not teaching skills. So, government over the years has developed a program called Skilling Uganda. Technical colleges have been introduced where one can now go to technical school after senior 4, after P7. After P7? Because education is free in primary and secondary school. So that a person acquires the skills to be able to employ himself or herself, to be able to employ others. So I would indeed believe that as we progress in the next 5 to 10 years, with a new National Development Plan 3 that is focusing budgeting now to programs, our people are going to benefit very, very much from the peace dividend, from correct policies, from the increasing revenue collection that is coming from factories, that is coming from service industry. Education, therefore, we have been able to raise the level of literacy in this country to 72%. We were 43, I think. We were behind every other country in the region. Today, we are only behind Tanzania because Tanzania started UP, Universal Primary Education, during Mwalimu Nyerere's days, and so that helped them being literate. Having said that, have there been no challenges? Challenges have been there. Challenge number 1 was the hostility I talked about. Challenge number 2 was mistrust, even within the population. Challenge number 3, the international community were looking at these new people who have, first of what were done was unprecedented, that a guerrilla force starts within a country, fights a government, overthrows it. So we're a bad example to many people, bad in the courts. And indeed, many people copied us and they got rid of dictators, thanks to the example they had read from Uganda. Third challenge, or fourth challenge I would put, was also dealing with the question of HIV/AIDS. Especially it became an issue for us in the military because it now affected our effectiveness. But because of leadership, it was quickly dealt with and we were back on course without anybody noticing that actually HIV was disturbing us at the time. Today, we are now an example. We are a source of lessons for others. The other challenge was how to make the local governments through the RCs become effective. So in 1997, government introduced the Local Government Act that created the decentralization. And the decentralization program we undertook became a lesson for other African countries. I remember many delegations coming here to study how we had done it. And indeed, local governments now have a budget. So I'm challenging our people in the districts. Can you monitor how the money that comes in the districts is being utilized? Because there are some districts today, you will go, people are not there, but when the money comes, they will be available. So it's a challenge I'm through the districts. Challenge number 5 is corruption. As revenue grew, as activities expanded, appetite for some individuals also grew, and they decided to expropriate national resources to themselves. Fortunately, the government has created accountability agencies. IGG, the Auditor General has always been there. They have added others, then the State House Anti-Corruption team. All these to address this issue. Can I appeal to Ugandans to cooperate with these agencies so that indeed we deal with corruption? Because corruption is a security threat if not dealt with appropriately. Then emancipation of women. An issue that some people may not recognize. The number of women in decision-making positions, the number of women who have been exposed to serve this country at various levels has grown tremendously, thanks to the correct policies of government. Are there challenges in the process? Of course they are. Accepting change is not easy. In fact, some people began saying maybe we should introduce many studies at universities instead of women's studies, so that men can accept this new change. But thanks to government resilience, this is taking root. The various interest groups, the people with disabilities, had been left behind. Today, they are represented up to parliament level. I would like to sum up. We have moved politically so successfully. We have moved economically. Socially, we have advanced. The question each citizen should ask himself or herself: how have I benefited from this growth? How can I benefit if I have not? Government has put in place various funds. The Women Fund, the Youth Livelihood Program. All these are intended to give financial abilities to those who can, so they can do something to improve themselves. Again, there have been challenges, but corrective measures are being made so that whoever accesses this money, you have, first of all, it's a right to access it. Number two, you are guided on how to invest it so that you can be able to return without interest though. Therefore, what does that mean? We must maintain stability. These threats that we are having, or the kind of hiccups we got on the 18th of November last year, where people decided to turn this city into hell on earth, should never happen again. Fortunately, we in security are determined not to allow it. But security is the responsibility of every citizen. According to Article 17 of the Constitution, every citizen must defend the country. Every citizen must cooperate with security agencies in implementing the rule of law. Keep peace. 2, utilize the opportunities that are available where you are. 3, these government programs, access them. And therefore, our members of parliament, our councillors at district levels should be able to bring information down so that people can know the opportunities available to make their life advance. As we celebrate 35 years of NRM leadership in government, I want to congratulate all of you and thank you for the contribution you have made in various levels. And you who has not made any contribution, it's a challenge to you. Seize the opportunity so that by the time we celebrate 30 years next year, there is something you can show for yourself. As we celebrate stability, peace, it costs lives to build this country's stability. So the young people ought to know that no one owes us a living as a country, that the responsibility to build a stable, progressing, developing country is for every citizen of this country. In fact, the youth are our strength as a country. So the youth ought to know, the youth should be informed that no one will make our country beautiful except ourselves. So those who have been appealing for foreign intervention, first of all, illegally, that's treason. But two, realistically, no foreigner can intervene and leave your country better. We have examples. Libya, which up to now, they are wishing for Late Gaddafi, he can't come back. Iraq, Syria today, foreign intervention has never helped a country. In fact, we should celebrate, because in the Asian tigers, South Korea, Singapore, they addressed the political questions first. I mean the economic questions first. They built the economies before they democratized. Now for us, we democratized the area, and some people are abusing this. Can we use this democratization instead to build our country better? So my young people, it's you and the elders to build the country. The Baganda were saying, it means the chibira is there in the first instance. So it's not the mito which make the chibira. It's not the younger trees that are making the forest. The forest is already made by the older trees. The younger people strengthen the forest. So, can we work with our elders? Can we work with those of us who are older than you to indeed show direction and build the country in that direction? Many of us have left the countryside and come in the cities because we're expecting opportunities. But like I mentioned earlier, opportunities are available if you challenge your brain. Opportunities are available if you dislike your environment. But if you're in a comfort zone, you will never change. 4, there is nothing to come for free. So to expect, like I heard people were booking buildings and the cars, what a shame. To expect that you will get free things and therefore grow rich, you are mistaken. We had the experience of Idi Amin chasing our Asians in the 1970s. People received the free businesses. They collapsed the following year. We were talking about the economy growing by -400 because of that wrong policy of Idi Amin. I had forgotten about agricultural sector. 68% of our people live in rural areas. Unfortunately, because of land fragmentation, because of the family policies of inheritance, many parts of the country, especially in the central and the southwest, we are not able to use mechanization because land has been distributed among children. But even there, that's why the president has been talking about the 4-acre model. There's even now the 1-acre model. That even with a small piece of land, when utilized economically, it can give you as much as 200 million shillings per year. The point is, what are you growing? What are you farming? What are you rearing? I cannot sign off without talking about the phone. The phone is a business tool. For us, it is becoming a source of danger. It is affecting our culture because people are adopting cultures from the phone, social media. People are adopting practices that are alien here. People have been flabbergasted that somebody can meet someone on Facebook and next they are marrying. Who? Astagfirullah. How? Whom are you marrying? Where has he come from? Who is she or he? Please let us not ape practices we don't understand. The Batora was saying Aswera Abuza, for example, that you are going to marry, you must ask. Let us come back to our elders and ask them, how are things done? Because a country or a society whose culture is dead, that society gets lost. 2, let us bother to know where our country has come from. Because without knowing where you have come from, you can't know where you want to go. Lastly, not everything on the internet is correct. Can we develop our brains to question what we read, to question what we see? After all, the life we see in movies is not the real life. Your life is about struggle to make yourself better. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 3, God said, from your sweat shall you eat. Let's fold our sleeves, work to improve ourselves, work to improve our country. It's a shame that you will see a young man telling you, I'm going to marry, and he's earning 0 shillings a month. So you ask the young man, what are you going to feed your wife? How are you feeding yourself? Why? Because things have been seen here. Real life is about struggle, is about work, is about living amicably with each other. So let us love one another. Let us love our country. Let us work for ourselves as if we are going to die tonight. As if we are going to live for 1,000 years. But let us work for our souls as if we are dying tonight. Because the next life is longer than the life on earth. God bless Uganda. God bless all of you. Thank you very much.